So Friday marks 10 years since the deadliest landslide in U.S. history. 43 people died when a hillside collapsed in the small town of Oso. Well, this week, King 5 is looking back at the tragedy and revisiting those who were impacted. I am joined now by one of the reporters who actually covered this story extensively, Jake Wittenberg. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, you bet.
My friend, I was not here when this happened. It was a year before I came, but you were here. What were you doing the morning of March 22nd, 2014?
You know, I'll never forget on that Saturday morning. The slide happened at 10:37 on that Saturday morning. So just the worst possible time for something like this to happen on a neighborhood. Everybody was home at the time. It was a gorgeous spring day. Spring was in the air. So everyone was home. And I myself was also at home doing some yard work. Saw that there was a slide, 2 people missing, and I thought, oh no, this might not be good. And I was called into work that afternoon, and from that next morning, that Sunday, for the next 2 weeks, I was in Darrington pretty much every single day, all but I think one day, covering the events, covering the aftermath of what you see here, feeling that grief and that devastation just day after day. It was one of the longest, hardest assignments of my life.
I have the chills right now because it is, as you are sharing this story, you're also an empath and you're feeling this as well. But I'm looking at that image right there, and I understand, though, that initial call that came into 911 was for a roof in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
So emergency responders didn't even know what to make of the magnitude?
Right. In our interviews, this is in the podcast as well. It's also in our special this week. You'll hear some of the stories from my colleagues, too, that this initial single-engine response came in for a barn door on a roof. And, of course, everyone's thinking, oh, that's a bad day for somebody. And there have been smaller mudslides in that area that perhaps could have caused some sort of a house to collapse. But nobody knew anything about what you're seeing here. This was a half a mile away up to the north. People thought maybe there was a mudslide from the south. And it was confusing because that barn came from the south side of the road, but the landslide was from the north. And what we now know is that it was such a massive 2-part event that the landslide reached a half a mile out into the Stillaguamish Valley. It turned into a lake and essentially flipped the whole valley upside down in on itself and moved so fast and far that it turned back onto itself once it hit the road, kind of like an eddy in a river, and that forced that barn back onto 533. So it was very, very confusing for first responders.
That is insane as an event.
Yeah, we've never seen anything like this in the United States in our lifetime, frankly.
I mean, and the geologic factors are what happened.
Right.
Do they know now what caused the slide?
Well, what happened leading up to the landslide is important context. It was a record amount of rainfall in March. There was like 2 feet of rain in 2 months.
Wow.
And I mean, they're known for getting a lot of rain in this part of the Northwest. Obviously, it's in March and February. But there was a record amount of rain, and so it saturated that hillside. And for reasons that maybe get complicated, there was a retaining wall that was put there at the base of that slide back in 2006. Some believe maybe that held some rainwater back. We can't know for sure. But the bottom line is that the hillside liquefied, it gave way, and the cliff and hillside above it collapsed.
Just there was nothing
and
support.
Geologists describe it as kind of a boot stomping into a mud puddle, just pushing everything out into the valley. People didn't stand a chance.
Oh, man. I know that you and the team talked to people who are sharing their stories. Tell me about some of the people that you talked to.
Well, you'll see this in the special on Friday as well that we've worked long and hard to put together for the people of Oso and Darrington. And we spoke with people who lost their families. We spoke with first responders, the chaplain, a lot of people involved in the organization of the response. You're seeing here Robin Youngblood. She was being rescued from the floating roof of her house. She somehow survived with her friend Yeti. We also spoke with Amanda Siddharth, a mother and her son. Duke were swept up in the mud. All of their neighbors did not make it alive. The baby in that gentleman's hands there is Duke. He actually had to be resuscitated there at the scene. And this is Duke now, 10 years old. He's the sweetest kid, but he has a traumatic brain injury.
Oh, you make me cry. This is crazy.
He's delayed. His mother on the right, Amanda, so strong. She shared her story, so brave to sit down here 10 years later. She has challenges of her own, but Duke has become a symbol, at the time famous as Baby Duke.
Yeah.
And today a symbol for hope, for strength, and survival.
An incredible story. She was clinging to a tree, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was
with the baby
in her
house.
Arms. She was on her couch, heard a rumble, had Duke in her arms, opened the door just in time to see her neighbor's chimney and house coming at her. She says it went black. The next thing she knows, she was churned up like a wave on a beach and ended up 5 to 10 feet in the mud in her house and had to be chainsawed out, ripped apart in the house to rescue her. It's a story of survival you'll hear in the podcast in episode 2.
What is at the site today?
Well, that's one of the culminations of this week with all the stories we're telling here is this giant memorial, which you're seeing right here as we lower down into this. This is a symbol of the families that were lost. The families themselves organized this. They designed it. Every family, every person that was lost has their own panel, a reflection panel, their picture, a quote that symbolizes their life. There's a section for first responders, for the search dogs. Here's one of the families here, all gone in an instant. This will be unveiled for the first time. It's 10 years in the making, and it's right there at the slide site. And if you go there, the trees are grown, the vegetation is grown. You can almost not see that scarp, that cliff. But there is a lookout point for people to see and remember.
How can people see the special? When is it? And the podcast as well.
The special is going to air at 7 o'clock on Friday night on King 5. It's a half-hour special. We're going to cut a longer special to air on YouTube and on King 5 Plus. And I encourage people to watch the podcast, listen to the podcast. You can download it wherever you get your podcasts. It's a 5-part series. It lets us really dig deeper and hear from these people in their voice.
I will 100% be listening to the podcast.
Thanks.
I cannot wait to see the special. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you.
And your photojournalist that was with you, Mike Perry.
Yeah, Mike Perry.
And thanks to both of you for telling this story. Thank you, Jake.
You're welcome.